Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to The Fool's Apprentice. Today is hashtag Saturday. So today I decided, you know what? Let's go back into the vault and see what we can find. So I went back 6 years and ended up finding a hashtag from Tom Benjamin called hashtag I believe in tarot. And I really like this hashtag because it really got me to sit and think about, like, what is it that I believe about the tarot, and why do I buy tarot decks, and why do I buy so many tarot decks? And what is it that tarot gives me? And then just all these questions just started coming up for me. And so I watched several of these hashtags from various people. And also another thing that I did was I went to their channel to see if they were still on and still making videos. And there were a few, well, more than a few, that hadn't posted a video in a couple of years. So, with life, people take different interests. People no longer, get fulfilled by making videos. People die. So you never know. You never know. But I really appreciated that in that time that they ended up putting up these videos. So for me today, I could go back and see what people thought. And there were a lot of various different beliefs, which I thought was really interesting. So after I watched several of those, I just sat with it for a while. And I was going to write notes. But then I was like, no. I want this to be very organic. And then as I was contemplating, I'm like, well, maybe I should write some of these thoughts down. And I just figured, no. One of the things that I really believe that for me is if something's going to come up, it's meant to come up at the moment. And I don't need to try to kind of force whatever is going to come up. Yes, having an outline is great. But for something like this, I just felt it needed to be very organic in the moment where I respond to the hashtag I believe in tarot. And so that's what I'm going to do. But I don't think I can do that without having to go back a bit. Not so back where I was like, I was born in 1942 in Seattle, Washington. That therapist's worst nightmare. Tell me about yourself. And so why I think it's important for me be able to go back is because I do use the tarot as a spiritual tool, which means that I have to talk about what my spirituality was like before the tarot was introduced. And I will tell you that I've always had a belief in something bigger than me, something out there in the universe and beyond, something that I cannot define. I think it's easier to define what this thing is out there by saying what it is not, more than what it is. I think that as a human being and with my mind, I don't really have like the necessary vocabulary to say what it is, because it is so big and so broad that it's for me an impossibility to tell you what it is. I just, it's out there. But I remember, I think my first real belief that there was something out there was when I was growing up being told that God wasn't going to love me because I was gay. And at that point, I hadn't realized that that's what was going on within me. All I knew that because who I was, and I really didn't have a name or anything for it, but I did know that it would, in society's terms, it was wrong. So when all these feelings started to come up, and I started to realize that I liked boys instead of girls, there was such an internal conflict, an internal struggle. And a big part of that was this idea that God wasn't going to love me. And that was really, really, really difficult for me. But that's the first time I remember believing wholeheartedly that there was a God, and that I wanted that God's love, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I'm not going to go really deep into it because we would be here forever. Needless to say, there came a point where I had to pull away and kind of close that door to protect me emotionally, psychologically, to put my spirituality in a bubble where it could just be until I could figure it out. And it wouldn't be until years later, probably in my, I'd say, probably in my late 30s, early 40s, when I really ended up getting a good sense of spirituality that fit like a key in a lock. This combination that just somehow finally it made it. But before that, it was a constant struggle. Even when I came to a place of self-acceptance, I was grounded in who I was as a human being. There was such, I think for me, religious trauma that it made it very difficult for me to move forward in spirituality. So I had to do a lot of work with me. And I did that through various channels. I went through therapy. That was a big part of it. And get to a place where I could find peace through forgiveness on what led to the place where I had to close that door and suspend my spirituality. And when I did find the right fit, which, like I said, it was probably in my early 40s, all of a sudden, the spiritual bubble that I had suspended burst, and I was fully inspired with this enormous universe of whatever is out there. Just I wholeheartedly believe that there was something greater out there that could help me through my life here today, that could help me through any trials and tribulations, that could help inspire me, that could help me become the better version of me, to become a better person, a better human being. And through that, I ended up being very open to anything that would come my way that would kind of feed that spiritual part of who I am as a human being. And interesting is what happened was I ended up reading a book called When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. She's the first American Buddhist nun. And that book touched me so deeply, deep down to where that spiritual bubble was at that I had suspended, that it burst. And all of a sudden I just was filled with a sense of connection and hope. And I felt light, and I felt like I could breathe, and I felt a part of, instead of, separate, where I was looking at everybody else. It was just a very amazing transformation as I read that book. And so I started going to various Buddhist centers, temples, and I found my place. And I ended up converting to Buddhism. And then I thought, yes, I'm done. I found it. I'm a Buddhist. Boom, period. Close that door, start working, moving forward. And I found that that wasn't the case. These belief systems that I grew up with would not just disappear into the background and never be heard of again. What happened is they started to integrate themselves, kind of like tapping me on the shoulder, like, I'm still here. We're still here. We can still be of use. We can help you develop into this person that you want to be spiritually. And so little by little, I started allowing those Christian Catholic beliefs to come in, and I started incorporating them into my spiritual practice, which includes prayer. And I found that very fascinating. And when I started to realize that as I grew older and I followed this spiritual path, that my belief systems would kind of change little by little with me. And it was very, very fascinating for me to see how much I was growing through allowing both parts of my spiritual religious background to kind of meld together. And it developed into a very, very beautiful practice that I still have today. Like my shrine area has the Karma Buddha, has the Medicine Buddha. It has a stump of Jesus Christ, the Virgin Mary, St. Jude. St. Jude's very important to me. It's a patron saint for me. I've had paintings commissioned of all four. I have a rosary. It's all just one big bowl that's mixed up, and it just makes my spiritual practice so much richer. Then one day it popped up. I don't know how it popped up. I don't know how I was introduced to the tarot. I honestly don't remember. I do believe it was Katie Flowers video came up, one of them, and I was just like instantly swept away, and I connected to the tarot very quickly through the videos. And so I ordered my first deck, and then little by little I just started playing with them, and they started becoming a spiritual tool that I utilized for my spiritual practice, for my spiritual growth. And so I believe in the tarot. Period. I believe in the tarot. I believe in its ability to transform. I believe in its ability to inspire. I believe in its ability to draw out the best parts of who I am so that I can be that person I hope to be. I mean, I also believe that I don't have to know how it works. I do not need to know how the tarot works to know that it does. The proof is in the pudding. I am growing spiritually because I use the tarot as a tool to grow spiritually. And it is a very integral part of my spiritual practice. In fact, I think it has become the main tool in spiritual growth for me right now. What I do know is that it is going to evolve. I do know that it will either continue to play a bigger and bigger role, or that it will start taking a smaller role, but it will always play a role. That's what I believe. And so the tarot is a very, very, very powerful tool. And for me, I find it a very comforting place to be. When I have the cards out, I don't know, I just get very centered, and I get very quiet, and I get very calm. So it not only does it have a spiritual effect, it actually has a very physical effect for me. Just sitting there and shuffling, it's this repetition that I can find very, very calming, that helps me get centered. It's like a deep breathing practice. Shuffling, kind of just really helps with grounding me. I do think what's really important for me when I work with a tarot is the intention behind it. And I think the intention is really what sets how the reading is going to come about, what kind of message I'm going to get, and how I'm going to utilize that message, even if I use it at all. And I'm not perfect, guys. I've done a reading, I've gotten a great message, and I didn't think about it all day long. But in that moment, I found I was spiritually connected. Do I think that the tarot can fix all the spiritual things that I need to address? No. Again, it is a tool of many. I have other tools. I have prayer. I have a rosary. I have statues. I have paintings. All do something to help me connect to my spiritual self. But I do know that the tarot for me really does help me grow as a person. I find when I work with the tarot, I tend to smile more. I tend to be more present. I don't know. It's a very fascinating question. I believe in the tarot, and then like why? Because it is shown through me that it has a positive effect on how I view the world, how I view myself, and the decisions that I make, how I care for myself, how I care for others. I just feel so very fortunate that I do not close myself off to anything that I think could be of benefit to me spiritually, which includes the tarot. I don't know if I would have been as open had I not had those experiences when I was younger, but I know there's something there because they sell like hotcakes. We have tarot tube channels galore, which is wonderful. People find use in them in one way or another. It doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual. There are people who believe in its ability to predict the future. I am not one of those people. I do not believe that the tarot can predict the future. I just don't think it's possible. But there are people who do. And I think that's kind of cool that everybody can have their own belief system regarding the tarot and it works for them. That's all. I think that's all that matters. If it works for you, then it works for you. And I think that's the magical part about this thing is like, I'm looking at one of my decks and I love this deck. And 5 of us can have the exact same deck, ask the same question, pull out the 5 same cards, and we will all have different answers. Because I do also believe that it does tap into our internal wisdom, our internal intelligence, the subconscious, all those kinds of things. I think it does that with all of us. And regardless of the question and what card you get, I think there's always going to be an answer there. I think if you have one question and you pull out every card and have an answer, you will have an answer for every card for that question. They may be similar, they may be vastly different. I believe that if I ask, what do I need to focus on today? And I pull out the full card today, I will have an answer from that card that will come from within, that I will need, that I can utilize. If I ask the same question tomorrow and I pull the full card, I believe that I will have an answer tomorrow that I need to hear, that I need to see, that I can utilize. And I believe that it won't be the same answer. On the third day, same thing. And I believe that the answer would be different or maybe similar. But I don't believe that it will always be the same answer because the circumstance, the day, my feeling, how I am, where I am in this universe, in this world is different. So therefore the answer is going to be different. Wow. Yeah, I do believe that. I believe all of that. And I could go on and on. So I really wanted to go back and pull out a hashtag from years ago. And when I saw this one, I was really excited about it because it really had me critically thinking, had me analyzing why do I believe in the tarot so much that I buy all these decks, that I'm willing to spend my hard-earned money on these decks, why I'm willing to spend my precious time using these decks, why I'm willing to invest, my spiritual practice in these decks, in the tarot, because it works. It works for me. I have found great benefit in using them. So how can I not believe in it? Until next time, my name is Benny, and I am the Fool's Apprentice. Bye, everybody.